What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the RPO College Football Podcast. I'm your humble host, Jerome Jones, and I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend. You already know who he is, Mr. Ray Roberts. How you doing, Ray?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. And obviously, we got somebody special and new to the podcast. He's been on here before, but you already know who he is. If you've been watching Inside the Hatches, anything, Mr. Sam Kirk himself. How you doing, Sam? You're on mute, sir.
Pretty good, guys. Excited to talk some, NFL draft, chop it up a bit. Love what you guys been doing, the last couple of weeks.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Obviously, we got Sam on because we are going to be talking some Senior Bowl. Obviously, me and Sam was at the Senior Bowl this past week, so we want to do some updates on that. What some of the things that we've seen and how we felt about some of the play there, and stock up, stock down, stuff like that. So I'm excited about this. How you guys feeling about this, man? Y'all ready?
Very ready. Absolutely.
All right. So let's get right into it because the Senior Bowl, obviously each year, each position, there's always players that we're looking at. But this year, we've said this is a very talented quarterback pool this year. Me and Sam got to go down there. We interviewed almost all of them outside of Penix, obviously. He was a hard get. But let's start off with the quarterback. I'm going to let you start, Sam, being our guest. What's your total thoughts on the quarterbacks there? I'm going to just name off the quarterbacks real quick, just for anybody that don't know who they were. You had Michael Penix. You had Sam. Spencer Rattler. We had Sam Hartman. That's what I was trying to say. We had Chris Pratt there. We had Penix, and who was the other guy?
Joe Milton.
And Carter Bradley.
From South Alabama.
Yes, sir. So out of those guys, Sam, tell us a little bit about what's your thoughts on the entire group as a whole first.
I have to say, I think the first thing that most people were, thinking watching this group this week was the initial reaction was I don't see Bo Nix as a first-round player right now. I think this is too deep of a draft class for teams to be able to go that route, especially when he's older than half of the young stars at that position in the league already. I think there's not enough upside for a guy like Nix to be taken with a first-round pick, especially with how deep this draft class looks like it's going to be. That being said, not saying I was blown away by anyone really watching, but what I took away, what I've been saying is watching Michael Penix, you can see that he's a true pro's pro. He didn't give us any reasons to really question him during the week, which I think was a big thing for him to do coming down to Mobile. It's a kind of risk for some people to go down there, especially at the quarterback position, because, you have 2 bad days. The next thing you know, he plummets to the 3rd round. So I think Penix did a good job in not, showing anyone some really big flaws and issues that we should be circling. That being said, I didn't see him separate himself from the group as much as I thought there would be. And guys like Spencer Rattler and, a few other guys, I think, honestly did help their draft stock as well. People are high on Michael Pratt more than I was. I do like Carter Bradley. He's the son of Gus Bradley. The NFL really likes players like that have that experience and to have that intel. I mean, your dad being a coach for over 10 plus years in the National Football League is definitely going to help you know the ins and outs and, how to be a true pro. So I still think, in my opinion, I think Rattler and Nix flip in draft stock. I mean, that might be a big take at this point in the year, but I think based on upside, Rattler has tremendous things that are about him that Nix really doesn't have, including age and, including attributes that really are kind of like what the NFL is leaning towards. So I wasn't really impressed with Sam Hartman. I'm sure you'll have more to say about that, Ray. Definitely didn't look bad throughout the week. He has, a really good physical stature to play the quarterback position. You watch him under center. He's a big guy who can run the football. He's not afraid to, and he makes some smart plays at times. And I think he can be a good, solid career backup in the league, but I think he's going to need a lot to just, maybe even have a chance of winning a role. But definitely an interesting week. And now I think the question we ask is, does Michael Penix deserve to be taken in that back half of the first round?
You think, Ray?
I think that I agree with everything that he just said. I think that, for one, people will take Bo Nix at the end of the first round. I agree with you, Sam. I wouldn't take him, but I think, guys, somebody will.
Yeah.
As far as Spencer Rattler did improve his draft stock, I believe, but we've always known that he's a toolsy kid.
Yeah.
He needs to keep the sense about him because there's definitely talent there. There's no question about that. I think that Michael Penix is still what Michael Penix is. I love him in the right offense. I'm scared of him in the wrong offense. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, and what I mean by the right offense, I mean an offense that has a solid run game where he can take shots deep down the field. That is what he's going to be good at, I believe. His reads in the middle of the field scare me a little bit because he's a little later there than with the fade ball. You know what I mean? So, but I do agree. I think Michael Pratt and Carter Bradley will both find their way on NFL rosters as backup somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. My overall take on it, obviously going down to the Mobile, it was a lot of hype on the quarterback position. And I think it was, in a whole, I think the quarterback position was very underwhelming. Michael Penix, I think, was obviously, I don't think he was the sold after player at the Senior Bowl. Like, if there's one player that everybody wanted to see at the Senior Bowl, it was Michael Penix. And I think, he didn't have a bad week. He didn't play in the game, so that kind of like, okay, everybody else had 4 chances to kind of show. He only had 3. So, it's also practice. So, depends on how the coach do the practices and stuff like that, kind of equate to that. But the thing is, he didn't have a spectacular Senior Bowl, and I think that some of the things that people are, I don't think they're gonna knock him for it, but also not gonna. He didn't do nothing.
I feel like that's kind of what I said, Jerome. Like, he didn't do anything to completely hurt himself there, which I think is a big step forward for a lot of players. Like, we have to consider that. You're practicing for all these hours throughout the whole week, and you're interviewing nonstop. It's a tiring process, and for you to be out there and not look like a total wreck on day 3, I think, is a good thing. That shows you're going to be able to hold up during a season, during tough conditions. Say Penix is in a colder place. Like, you don't know what's going to happen once he gets to the National Football League. Another point I was just going to make on Penix is that, like, I think Ray said it perfectly, is that in the right system, he can be really good next year. I think he could almost have a CJ Stroud type year if he has some weapons and some protection, and the team's kind of down in a couple of games and he's throwing the ball a lot. Like, not saying he's going to have that CJ Stroud year, but I could definitely see him being tasked, hey, you're going to have to play 13 games this season. And I could see him throwing 22 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. I could see him holding his own, making some splash plays. And that's a big step for a lot of those young quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think if in an ideal situation, if he goes to a Steelers team, that'd be a very good team for him. Not a team that wants to use the middle of the field as much.
Yeah.
Not Miami, not San Francisco, even though we all know that Kyle Shanahan does a great job with coaching quarterbacks. I don't think he's his type of quarterback. I think in a team that runs the ball and wants to throw the ball downfield a little bit, that's where Michael Penix will thrive in. If you try to fit him into as a system player in the middle of the field, I think he's going to struggle there. I do.
Yeah, another team I was kind of thinking maybe Atlanta possibly. You look at that offense.
Great fit. I think that's another one where if because they're going to run the ball. We already know that they have good running backs, so the offensive line is solid. So that's really what you could build on if you're in Atlanta.
Yeah, and they don't have no weapons. They have Drake London still. You still have Kyle Pitts.
And then you got young guys developing together, which is what I like.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think that Penix can definitely be a good player. I just think that he didn't do much for himself at the Senior Bowl. As far as all the other quarterbacks, very underwhelming. The only other one that played, I think, to the best level out there was, Spencer Rattler. And even him, he was the most impressive there. He didn't blow me out the water, but like, oh man, what did I miss on this guy? Because like Ray said, we kind of already knew who he was. He's just more of a decision-making kind of quarterback. He has the talent, but he's more of a decision-making kind of guy. A little shorter as well, so that doesn't play too well with, some GMs and stuff like that. But, outside of that, I don't think anybody else was, showed us that, hey, maybe we should be looking at this guy a little bit more, and usually that's what you want to do when you go to the Senior Bowl is you want to, show off a little bit where you can be like, hey, you might want to look at some more tape on me. And I don't think any of the quarterbacks help themselves outside of Spencer Rattler, honestly.
I think if the right coaches gets their hand on Spencer Rattler, though, the kid has huge upside. There's no question.
Oh, and Ray, we talked about this. My career path for him, and I'm saying it's a comp, but the career path for him is Brock Purdy. Like, he's very inconsistent during college, where some days you're like, man, this guy's going to be a first-round pick. And then some days you're just like,
you know what, though, Jerome? You could have said the same thing about Bo Nix before last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Guy who's toolsy, who you don't see consistent play from.
Correct.
One more thing that I kind of wanted to bring up as well about Penix is I think a part of his likeness and intrigue is, and him going to Mobile, is that he can interview well. And I think that was a report that was coming out of Mobile a lot, that teams that did talk to Michael Penix were, this guy's a leader. This guy's somebody people are going to fight for, one. And he's been through adversity already. He gets to the NFL. He goes 0-3 and throws 5 picks in his first 3 games. He's not going to go down a rabbit hole and just, he's going to come out and he's going to respond to that. And I think that's an important thing for him as well. And people ask me all week, Sam, why didn't Jaden Daniels, what's the difference between Penix and Jaden Daniels? And I'm like, I don't think Jaden Daniels would be able to interview as well as Penix would. That's kind of what I think of Jaden Daniels is. I think he's more of kind of a flashier guy, so he's going to have to show off in a combine-like setting instead of what Penix could kind of do in like a practice-like setting. And me and Jerome were watching like we saw all those practices, and we were seeing Penix kind of command the offense, and it was impressive. It's not, the coaches really test those players to not only perform and go through NFL-like scenarios, but they also are in charge of like really getting their offense ready for game day. And I think that was a good thing that Penix was able to do throughout the week. You see him talking to random teammates. A lot of people have good things to say about him from other schools as well. So I think he's a person that a lot of people are going to be behind. And that's also us getting so close to these quarterbacks. Like in other Senior Bowls, we really haven't had that opportunity, which was really cool for me and Jerome to get to see like some of these prospects that are going to be ultimately franchise changers for some of these teams. And when you look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, if his interview shows anything like about his character right now, and he's being true to himself when he was talking to me and Jerome, this is guy's a changed man from what he was 5 years ago. And I think that's a big thing for what he, had to do. And that was one of the main things that he kind of had to focus on. And I don't think he's going to have a problem with a locker room, with guys liking him on the team, with him, being someone you can build around on the NFL roster anymore. I don't think that's a flaw in his game.
I would love to see what an Andy Reid could do with a guy like Spencer Rattler. I really would. I mean, they don't need him, of course, but I would love to see him with an offensive mind like that to see what he can become, to be honest with you.
But hey, me and Jerome were told Spencer Rattler was talking to the Packers and they don't need him anyway. So, teams have shown a real ability to be, hey, we're not afraid to take another quarterback if we really like this guy. Having too many quarterbacks is a great problem. We've seen that.
Absolutely.
Somebody like himself, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's the stigma of the Brock Purdy effect, and there might be a chance that Spencer Rattler, I don't think he's going to be a Brock Purdy and fall to the 7th round. I think that was just insane that he went to the 7th round. But there's going to be situations where Spencer Rattler might go in the third or fourth round, and then you can invest in having a good backup quarterback just in case your quarterback doesn't work out. So I think that teams like Sam saying, teams are going to do their due diligence on players now because there could be a Brock Purdy situation where, hey, my quarterback went down, or hey, my quarterback's not playing well. Well, we got this backup in. He was pretty well. Pretty good. Let's put him in and see what he can do. And
I
we
think
don't have
there's
to
more
worry
situations too in the NFL now more than ever that are like, hey, we like our starter, but he's giving us 10 games a year. Like, we're going to need someone to play those extra 3. When you look at a squad like Cleveland, even with Deshaun, you know what I mean? Like, they were okay with him, but having like Rattler to be able to come in instead of like a Dorian Thompson-Robinson, maybe you kind of get that transfer in their head. Hey, we have Rattler now. We don't really need Deshaun. So I think a team that's already built, a team that has a good OC, some weapons, like a Steelers. We brought the Steelers up with Penix. I think Mike Tomlin organization would be good for Spencer Rattler. It might humble him a bit. They have some weapons there. They'll have a run game there. Like, there's some really good options, I think, for some of these quarterbacks this year. And the biggest thing is they're not going to be asked to play hero ball day one. That's not going to be the case for Spencer Rattler, and I think that's a good thing for him.
Yeah, and you see how many of the starting quarterbacks this year went down. There was a lot of starting quarterbacks went down. So I think teams are going to start looking at these guys like, hey, might not be first or second round, but let's get this guy in like the third round and sneak some talent in there. Maybe we can mold them behind our starter just in case something happens.
I would draft a quarterback every other year if I were an NFL GM. At least. It doesn't matter what round. If I see somebody who I had as a first or second round player, they drop to that next round, I'm taking them.
Totally agree.
I'm taking them, man. I can't, because you can always turn them guys over.
Yep.
But Andy Reid used to you know how many draft picks he got for backup quarterbacks? Guys that looked like starting quarterbacks in Philadelphia and then went somewhere else and were backup quarterbacks.
Oh, right. They want to talk about AJ Feely, do you?
No, I do not. And here's the thing about what Sam was saying about like earlier. Sam Hartman checks all the boxes as far as being a leader, talking well, expressing, and he has some talent. He struggled most of the year in Notre Dame, and he did not look good in the game. And I didn't get to watch practice, though. Mm-hmm. I know in the game he did not look great. And I don't really like judging the quarterbacks in this game, in this setting, because they're not playing with guys they're used to playing with. I mean, it's
time. He was also kind of put in a tough spot, especially during the game where Bo Nix had one drive and he looked really good, and he was like, I'm done. Not going back out there. 4 for 4 and a touchdown. He's not going back out. Penix was on that team as well. He didn't play. So they're basically like, hey, Sam, you're playing 3 quarters today instead of 1. You know what I mean? So it's
right. Like you said, they put him in a bad spot playing with a lot of guys he wasn't comfortable with.
And he won the game still, and he was able to manage them to that win. So, like, I think that's honestly a positive for him, who didn't have a flashy week during practice. He didn't really turn the ball over much. Joe Milton was throwing the ball to the other team consistently. Hartman didn't do that. Hartman, he audibled out of some plays. He was able to run the ball effectively. He made some good dump down reads. So, could have been worse. And we didn't really talk about Milton much, but arguably –
we thought he was.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing: like, we know that the top 3 quarterbacks we feel are going to be good. Now, again, one of them guys probably won't be that good, but we don't know who that's going to be right now. Right. All these other guys, I believe, are like Penix could be a starter. Bo Nix, I believe, in the right system, could be a starter. These other guys are backup quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that's what they are. I don't think they're any better than that. Sam talked about Carter Bradley having a father as a coach, which will absolutely help him, which probably helped him in practice. But in the game, you see there's limitations there. There are. So,
100%. All right, well, let's get to our next position group. We're going to talk about the running backs. Now, this running back class is not the big – we don't have any big name running backs in this class. I think you can get some good depth in this. Ray, I'm gonna let you start off with this. What's your thoughts on the running backs that was at the Senior Bowl? Anybody kind of like shine to you? What's your total thoughts on this?
The one that I really kind of looked really good during the game was Imani Bailey from TCU. He had a nice game. He also caught a couple balls. He was the one guy that stood out. Again, I don't want to judge the guys by, I think all the running backs did a good job. Did a good job of like picking up whatever who was coming in free on the quarterback. Did a lot of good things. But Bailey, again, was the one guy in the game who stood out to me.
Correct. Yeah, he had a sneaky quiet practice week. I don't think enough people was talking about him, and I think he really showed off in the actual game. So I think he did well. What's your thoughts, Sam?
I thought, we kind of watched the game, and there was probably, I don't know the number exact, but maybe 4 to 5 running backs that didn't play in the game. So, you guys missed half the running back talent that was actually down there, which I think was a deeper class than some think. I think Ray Davis and Cody Schrader are both going to have roles in the NFL. I think Ray Davis might be built a little bit more to be a 3-down NFL back. He kind of, watching him, remind me a little bit of Zeke. He's a little bit bigger, smaller of a guy, a little heavy set. He looks hard to tackle. He looked great throughout the week. I like Cody Schrader just because he's good in third down. He showed an ability to catch the ball in the Senior Bowl game, and he played a ton of snaps, which I think was really good for his stock. Another guy we talked to, Marshawn Lloyd from USC. I think I saw him on a good amount of people's winners of the week type of list, and I think it's something to worth note. He played in a very pro style like system, played with Caleb Williams. I think sometimes that really helps you as a running back as well. You have such a playmaker and a dynamic player in Williams at the quarterback position. I think Lloyd almost is asked to do so much more. That being said, he's like, you got to be ready on third down to catch a check down, make a play. Like I think he's been in a lot of good situations that are going to make his transition to the NFL very easy. So I think that's a good thing for him as well. But that's, I like Bailey from TCU. I think that's pretty much it, though, never mind. The New Hampshire kid, Noah Lobb from, I think he's worth noting. Definitely could. I mean, he looks like a Patriot if you want to be that guy. But he's really good receiving skills. Even during practice, they made him play with the receivers. He was practicing with them the whole practice. So I think that's definitely something to take note of, being that, these running backs are used on the slot and they're used on screen plays. He might have a special teams role. I think he's definitely a guy that's going to find himself onto a team come draft night.
Yeah, I agree. Couple of names I want to mention also. Rasheen Ali, he didn't play after the first practice, I believe it was. He got injured, but practice 1, he looked really good. So I kind of wish he kept playing. I did get a chance to interview him before he, left the practice field and never returned. I don't think you've seen him at all, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to see him.
So he only did 1 day of practice. But Amani Kadal, I think he could have a good role on special teams. A guy that you could probably put in kind of like a Boston Scott kind of situation. I did see him kind of get manhandled a little bit during the games too. He's such a small guy, and people were just like grabbing him and tossing him. It was just like, whoa, he's small. But he has some ability. I think he can be a guy that you can put in as a quick slasher or reliever guy, put him on special teams, maybe punt returns, something like that. That could really help him out. But yeah, I really like Cody Schrader. He showed me that he could be a third down guy, like Sam was saying. He's probably the most pure catching running back I've seen out there, which shows me a lot. I don't remember how much he was doing with pass protection, but as a catcher, he was probably the best catcher out there, which he said in his interview that he wanted to kind of do and improve. So I thought that was really cool to see him actually achieve that.
Another note on him is that, his process just to get to Mizzou, him being from Mizzou, playing, D3, I believe, and then working his way up eventually to be that starting all SEC running back from Missouri Tigers. We've seen a lot of NFL pros, I think, in the last 5 to 6 years have these type of stories. The guys who fought through played through the adversity, weren't recruited that heavily and kind of just fought their way to the top of the game. And I think that almost speaks a lot more to his character than some of these running backs who, may have a lot of potential but didn't play a lot in college. I think a lot of people can see some really good tape from a guy like that. And I would not be surprised. We just put his interview out, by the way, as well, to see him, go into that 4th, 5th round.
Definitely. Ray, you want to close out?
I mean, like, again, Jerome, that I like Ray Davis a lot. I just didn't see enough of any of these guys in the
Right.
game, to be honest with you, to get a good feeling for him. Bailey was the one guy I saw had like 10 carries.
Correct.
I mean, he had a good game, and there's a lot of good running backs in this class.
Yeah, they said that there was running real thin on running backs, where the point where they had to start doing like 12 personnel, like receivers too. Actually, they had to start doing 12 personnel and pitting double tight ends and doing H back stuff and stuff like that. So,
I mean,
yeah,
the other problem with running backs is it's so undervalued right now.
Yeah.
It really is just like, ugh.
It is
so undervalued, man.
You could draft 3 guys. You could take 2 guys from the Senior Bowl and pay them less than $3 million, and you could be as effective as an offense of Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. It's like, if you're looking at this from a financial way, me and Jerome talked about this a lot of the week. If you're looking at it in a way where you want to win and you want to be successful as a team, you're paying 3 running backs minimum. You're paying them $1 to $3 million a year.
Yep.
To a total of $6 million. You're filling out the rest of your roster.
Honestly, Sam, at this point, even if you have a Saquon Barkley, you have a stud. You draft him. You play him for 4. Here's what I would do. I would play him for 2 years. If they excel, I would re-sign them right then for 4 years, and then I'm done with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a luxury at this point in time. He's a luxury. You got to be a really good team to afford a player like that.
I mean, honestly, unless it is a Derrick Henry who's literally willing to carry their offense on their back, they're interchangeable.
Yep.
They just are. I mean, like, I hate to say it because it sounds like you're taking for granted what they do, and I'm not. But the way you pay defensive linemen, defensive backs, and quarterbacks, there's almost so much money to go around for everybody.
I think that's part of the reason why all these younger kids, too, are so athletic and dynamic. They're like, hey, we're going to teach you how to throw the football, just in case. And they end up being under center, instead of that wideout and tight end position they were always at. And they go, oh, this kid's big enough, he's fast enough, he's strong enough to play the quarterback position in this day and age. And having a quarterback that's different and unique, it's a part of the winning in the NFL. And if you don't have that, you have a disadvantage. It's just the way it is.
If you have a running back who is, if I were going to give anybody or any running back free advice, learn how to block and catch the ball. If you do those 2 things, they will help you get on the field even before how good of a runner you are.
Yep.
I agree. All right, let's get to our next position. It's going to be the tight end position. So I'll start off with this one. The tight end position, I feel like every year at the Senior Bowl is probably the most underwhelming position. It don't get as much love in the Senior Bowl for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just the scheming of the games or maybe it's just the talent pool, but the tight ends are usually not the best. We have some pretty good guys here. A guy obviously I was trying to look into was AJ Barner. He didn't have the greatest game. He's more of an inline blocker type of tight end anyway, so I wasn't expecting too much out of him. As far as Vince Knott from Kansas State, I think that he was going to be one. He started showing some flashes in practice, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe he can do something in the game." Obviously, that didn't really turn out. Jaheim Bell, I like Jaheim Bell a lot. He's kind of shorter for me for a tight end, but I think he got some talent with him. Being from FSU. And then the best tight end I think that was there was Davion Spain Ford from Minnesota. He showed a lot of athletic ability that then I thought he could. I think he helped himself the most out of this group. But Sam, what do you think? What's your thoughts on this tight end group?
I just think there's definitely advantage to having those Big Ten tight ends who are just used to playing in the cold and run blocking and, playing the PA power role. And I like Spanford a lot. And when you were looking on the field, the most two NFL-like tight ends were him and Theo Johnson, in my opinion. Both of them have really good size and ability just to kind of be dirty on the line when they're asked to block, but they're also, good in space, able to get open, catch the football. I think that position's kind of leaning towards more of like what your build is, what your prototype's going to be. And I think a guy like Bell from Florida State, it hurts him a little bit. But those other guys, even Barner, like you said, if we don't know what teams saw during this week. We know what we saw, and sometimes they might see things that they like and that are a bit harder to see by just regular eye. But yeah, I kind of have the same take on it by you. It was a little underwhelming. Even last year was a little bit better with Musgrave and there's Payne Durham. There's a couple good tight ends last year, but yeah, that I was really impressed by only really Spanford, and no bias here. I thought Theo Johnson had a really good week for him coming in as the back at Penn State during his senior year. I mean, a lot of people like Tyler Warren, who's also coming out, but I think Theo did all he really could in Mobile to improve his stock. And I thought it was interesting as well that he mentioned that he has thrown with a lot of those quarterbacks in California before. So maybe his, experience going to those types of things are going to help him and raise his draft stock, having played with a lot of different players before.
Definitely. What about you, Ray?
I mean, again, I didn't see a whole lot of anything in the game that anybody did, but I like Theo Johnson. I think he's the kid from Penn State. I think he's a good player. I think that he'll be he is one of the better all-around tight ends. He can block, he can do the dirty things to the line of scrimmage, and he has good hands coming out, like catching the ball. I like him. I think that he's probably the best guy that I see on either teams in this roster. I like Spanford. I think he's athletic. I think he's a good player. I actually like the kid from Wiley. I think he actually has some upside as an NFL player. I do.
He looked good as well.
I like Barner from Michigan in the fact that I know he'll block for me and he'll do all the dirty stuff. You know what I mean? I like that.
I knew you were going to say that, right?
I like Michigan tight ends. I like guys that enjoy blocking as much as catching the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like Barner. I like Johnson. I don't think this is a great tight end class. I think last year's class was way better than this year's class. Yeah. I think you may have more guys that make it into the NFL, but you don't have the high-end prospects that you had last year.
Yeah, it's like Brock Purdy. I mean, that's it. No, Brock Bowers. Sorry, it's Brock Bowers and then everybody else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then you have some guys that like we talked about that'll do some things inline blocking. Some guys I like Jared Wiley. I think he's a good player as far as being an athletic tight end. I like him a little bit. I don't see I think there's 5 guys that I think will be NFL players, tight ends, but there's only one true impact tight end in this draft.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, let's get to our next position. We're going to talk about the offensive line as a whole, Ray. I know, Ray, this is your forte and everything like that. But before you start, Ray, I do want to say that I feel like, and I might have said this to Sam while we've done it, but I feel like the Senior Bowl always brings in the best linemen. They always, every year, they have they bring in some really good offensive linemen. Not always has to be a first-round pick, but you get some guys that sneak in the first round, like a Cole Strange a couple of years ago. Last year, Matthew Bergeron. This year, I feel like the pool of offensive linemen was really good, just like every other year. So, Ray, what's your thoughts on the offensive linemen?
I think the offensive linemen all did a really good job. I mean, the defense is really really were playing well in this game. So the offensive lines really had their game cut out for them. I think Tanner Bertolini from Wisconsin and Christian Haynes were that stood out to me as guys that were like really handling no matter what the offense, whatever the defensive line was throwing at them, they were basically doing their job. I think this is a really good. I think its offensive tackle class this year is ridiculous. I think the interior line is not as good. You have some Powers Johnson, who's like above everybody else as far as interior offensive line for me in this draft. But I think it's a really deep draft for offensive tackles.
Yeah, Powers Johnson was the highest offensive lineman I had on my list that I wanted to interview. Obviously, he got injured during practice, so he didn't return. But he was looking fantastic during practice. Sam, what was your thoughts on some of the offensive linemen?
The best offensive lineman there, in my opinion, was Tyrese Fuaga out of Oregon State. I think that's pretty much the consensus that was taken away from the week. But I do agree with Ray as well. A lot of people, a lot of my O-line people that I talked to as well, like Christian Haynes from UConn. They said he handled a lot of stuff throughout the week very well. Just his ability to kind of, flex along the offensive line. And again, I think it's Fuaga and then Powers Johnson right after him. I think both of them had the chance to actually go at the end of that first round, potentially. I think both of them are worthy picks. And honestly, I think they're more valuable than, say a guy like Bo Nix, someone reaching or like a guy like Bo Nix, or maybe a receiver that we're going to talk about, I'm sure, in our next segment. So,
yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, to me, you build your team in the trenches. And this is why I know the Eagles had a down year this year, but this is why the Eagles are a good team, though. This is why the Kansas City Chiefs are a good team. This is why the good teams are good teams, because they build their teams inside out. The skill players are only as good as the guys that block for them. Unless, I mean, of course, we know, unless like different guys at different talent levels, different skill sets. But really, if you don't block and tackle, nothing else is relevant, really.
Yeah. Definitely. Any other words I want to talk about with the offensive line?
I just wanted to ask Ray one thing. I mean, when looking at this overall, do you have Joe Alt above Olu by a lot?
No, but I think he's the best tackle in this draft.
Okay.
I think that he has everything. You check boxes. Played at a good university. 6'8", 303 pounds. You can't beat that. Played tight end in high school, so he's very athletic. Father's a coach. He checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
And he's gotten better every year at Notre Dame. So, I mean, again, Notre Dame is like Michigan, Penn State, Alabama. We produce offensive linemen, and that's one of the positions. We don't get the sexy skill players, but we get those,
Yep.
Ray, do you remember my nickname for Joe Alt?
I do not.
What?
I do
Joe
not.
Alt Elite?
Okay.
I'm going to make that a thing. I'm so saying I'm going to make that a thing. Everybody going to know that.
Honestly, I think him and Marvin Harrison Jr. are the cleanest players in this draft.
I agree.
I think you take them two guys, you got starters, all-pro caliber starters for 10, 15 years.
Yep.
100%. All right, let's get to the wide receivers. Let's get to those sexy positions.
Oh, we love the wide receivers. And you know what else? The wide receivers love the wide receivers.
Yeah, they do. But just based on the wide receivers in the Senior Bowl, man, it just tells me a lot about the depth in this class, man. We have some really good wide receiver play, in my opinion at least. I think, you've seen some guys that, were smaller school guys balling out there. We had some bigger name guys solidify themselves. I want to start off with this because I actually just posted his interview today. Xavier Leggett really impressed me. And the more I thought about it, the more I looked at it, the more I'm like, man, this kid is good. And Ray, we talked about this before we went down the Senior Bowl. I say he was one of my top 10 wide receivers in this draft. I want to stand on that. And the reason why, he talked to me. He said that he had a slow practice one, Looking at it from the eye test, I don't think he had a slow one. Maybe it wasn't up to his liking, but I think he was pretty solid. We practice 2, he balled out. You should have seen how fluent he looked in his routes, right? Right. The fact that he's as big as he is and he can route run the way he did, I was like, oh my goodness, like this guy, if he runs as fast as some people might think he will run, he has the potential of being a first round pick. Now, obviously, there's a lot of receivers in this draft, so that might be the reason why he might not be a first round pick. But he got first round abilities based on his speed. Like if he can run real good, I think he's a first round guy. And he impressed me. He obviously got injured, so he couldn't finish the game or play in the game. I think he got injured in week practice 3. But Leg is one of my guys. Obviously, Ronnie Bell, wasn't expecting him to burst out the way he did.
Roman Wilson.
God, I did it, didn't I? Roman Wilson, thank you for correcting me. I was doing that the entire week at the Senior Bowl.
I did it yesterday too.
Roman Wilson, he balled out, and to the point that I can't even get an interview with him because he was just getting mobbed by everybody.
Are you saying that all Michigan receivers look the same, dude? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I am, because what happens is they go to the Senior Bowl and ball out at the Senior Bowl. I'm just like, where was this all year? Like, don't get me wrong, Roman Wilson was playing really well this year, especially in the first half of the season. He's playing really well. I wasn't expecting it though. It was like
you keep forgetting though. Michigan plays a branded offense that does not favor wide receivers, dude. It just doesn't.
You're right. Nico Collins, Ronnie
It is what it is, man. Like it is what it is.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, now Roman Wilson. It's like they play better when they're not at Michigan. I don't want to say it out loud.
You got to throw the ball more than 20 times a game, dude, to really see what the wide receivers can do.
Yeah. But
I remember when again, this is C.J. Carr when he decided to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
His mom was like, "Why would he go to Michigan? They only throw the ball 15 times a game." Remember? And then she took that down off of her thing, like she never said that.
Yeah. She said it. I know she did. But anyway,
on Twitter, and then all of a sudden it got removed from Twitter, because she never said it. Okay.
100%. But a couple of names I also wanted. Tez Walker, very fast, super fast guy. He had a couple of drops though, which kind of hurt him a little bit, but he was playing really well. Brandon Rice, I want to talk about him being Jerry Rice's son. I don't typically like to look at a player because of who their parents was, but he had a really good Senior Bowl, and he was a very cool and fun guy to watch play. He might be my next interview I'll put out there because that was a fun interview. And then obviously Ricky Pearsall, sorry. He was another guy that I had high on my wide receiver list at the Senior Bowl, and he played very well. I wish he played a little bit more in the actual game, but that's a couple of guys I had. Sam, who you had as wide receivers? Sam, you were mute, sir.
I think me and you had a pretty similar list when it came. I think one guy you missed that I like, Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother.
Yeah.
He's from Rice. I think Luke has a lot of good football traits, especially to be able to play in the slot. Like you see his hands are very soft. He's got good feet. We saw him make a couple really good red zone plays, just nice catches in the back of the end zone. He's just a clean prospect to me, and I think there's not really much of a risk-taking guy like that because at worst he's your punt returner and probably a Pro Bowl special teamer. So it's the bonus is you might be getting really good Hunter Renfrow slot receiver, and Rice was pretty good this year. They had a couple other pretty good prospects, so I don't know. I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. A lot of other people were talking about Jacob Cowing from Arizona as well. He just consistently was able to get open, and I didn't see him drop a ball all week. And it just becomes one of those things when you're watching practice for 3 days and you're like, there's that Arizona kid again. And he's making NFL plays. And another guy that I kind of liked that also did very similar things, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. think that's another name that I would circle and just keep in mind. But yeah, those are really my guys right there. One guy that I think is going to kind of struggle and could potentially really fall in this draft is Johnny Wilson from Florida State. I think, Johnny Wilson going down to the Senior Bowl, I think was a good opportunity for him to show he can make some good plays in the red zone and show that he can, handle one-on-ones and get jammed up front. And we didn't really see much of him, Jerome. I mean, I think we saw him day one maybe, and then kind of just disappeared. But,
one of the things I've been hearing about him is that they're considering pitting him at the tight end position now.
He reminds me of a Kelvin Benjamin, which honestly doesn't really. It's not a good thing for me.
I mean, same school, so. What about you, Ray?
I mean, I love the wide receiver class this year. I think it's phenomenal. I agree with what Sam said about McCaffrey. I think the kid played his rear end off, even in the game. He looked really good. Looked like he has really soft hands. The one catch he made, actually, the defensive lineman deflected it, and he still caught it anyway. And he just kind of reached out with one hand and grabbed it, which was a beautiful play. And I think it's a really good wide receiver class. But he was the one guy. I love Luke McCaffrey. I like Ricky Pearsall from Florida. There are a lot of guys that I like in this class. I mean, honestly, I have over 30 draftable wide receivers in this draft this year.
Wow.
Over 30, man. And that's really not a high number when you look at the guys and the names. And I have 5 or 6 first-round wide receivers.
That's what I'm saying.
And they're legit grades. They're not that's not – there's one that Donnie Mitchell from Texas. Yeah. He may fall out of the first round, but he can very easily –
He's still first-round talent.
He is. He's if nothing else, a big, good possession receiver. Yeah. I mean, I just think that there's so much talent there. And in a league where everybody throws the ball 40 times a game, good.
100%. One name I do want to throw out there too, Javon Baker, man, from UCF. He had a pretty good week as well, and I didn't want to leave him out as well. So again, deep wide receiver class, man. It's kind of hard to pick apart anybody that unless they completely balled out. I don't think there was one guy that was head over heels over everybody, because this was just such a good class that I think everybody kind of shared some of it. Even Rosemary Jack Saint had a really nice touchdown grab in the corner of the end zone, which helped Spencer get that MVP award. So there was a lot of good receivers in this class right here. So
I think Devontae Walker from North Carolina struggled with drops.
He did. That's what I was saying. I said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got a lot of speed and a lot of talent. He can get in and out his breaks really fast, but the drops is going to be an issue with him.
He reminds me of Chase Claypool from Notre Dame. He has talent once he gets the ball in his hands. The problem is tracking the ball and getting the ball in his hands. So.
All right, let's get to some defense now. Defensive lineman. Ray, I'm gonna let you start off with this. Anybody stick out to you? Defensive lineman wise?
Hold on 1 second, guys. I get a message.
All right. Well, Sam, you can start.
You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. The center Johnson. I think he's going to be really good. I like all the guys that Sam had mentioned. The offensive guard. I like Christian Haynes from Utah. From UConn, had a great game. Christian Jones, offensive tackle from Texas. Bo Limmer from Arkansas. I think they all had pretty good, at least in what I could see during the game. I wish I could have seen a little bit more of practice than I did, to be honest with you. But, I mean, I think that there were a lot of guys that did a lot of good things there.
You said defense, right?
I said offense.
No, defensive lineman. We're on defense.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
I was like, hold on.
How we go from wide receivers to defensive linemen?
Because we did offensive line already.
We just finished all the offense, so we're going to
defense. Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
That's all good. Well,
Sam, you go first, man. I'm getting messages from
go
work.
ahead, Sam. Go ahead, Sam.
Wow.
I thought the defense was pretty fun this week. I gotta say, there's definitely some really cool players to watch. I think one of them, obviously, really hard to miss on the field, Devondre Sweat from Texas. When you're looking, he reminds me of Dexter Lawrence a lot. Watching his body, you know what I mean, just watching the way he plays, and it's surprising the push and like the force he still has to be able to kind of pass rush at that size. So I think he's a guy that's definitely going to end up going in that probably middle second round is where I kind of have him right now. I think Darius Robinson also another guy we interviewed. I think you're high on him as well. I think he definitely improved his stock tremendously. Just being, he was a fun interview first of all, and when you're watching, he was like the kind of the biggest, tallest guy out there. Like he looked. If you were picking out one NFL player in a group of all those college players, I think you'd be pointing at that guy. Like
Yeah, he's that guy that you're gonna have a lot of fun with. You're gonna be able to teach him different pass rush moves. You're gonna be able to be like, all right, we're gonna put you on the edge, or let's put him at inside a little bit sometimes.
yeah,
Shoot, let's even have him off ball linebacker sometimes. I think this is a guy that you can kind of move around all across that offensive or the defensive line and just kind of have fun with him. He has the speed, the power. He has the bend that he can get around the edges. He can stop the run. I think he's gonna be one of those guys where you're just like put him in, have fun with him. If you need to, if you need to pin him at a different position, you could do all that. You want to have him as a rotational guy, hey, you could do that as well. So I think Darius is definitely a name to look at.
5 guys that I think have a really good chance of, going in that early second or first round. It's Sweat, Darius Robinson, Brandon Dorless, Michael Hall, and Braden Fisk. I think those 5 are the guys that were the best players on the D line at the Senior Bowl. Michael Hall, I think, is going to be a really good pro. He seems all business to me, and he was really, giving some guys some work at the Senior Bowl. He's a younger guy as well, so definitely think that's an advantage. Another guy, Tyler Davis from Clemson, I think I like a lot. I just saw him flash a bunch, just trying to watch those one-on-ones as best as we could. It was kind of tough during practice to be able to really get a good glimpse of those, but we, there were certain guys that definitely stood out.
Definitely. For me, a guy I want to throw in there too is you said one Hall. I'm gonna say the other Hall, Gabe Hall, the interior defensive guy from Baylor. He flashed a lot to me. He very strong guy, man. He's very strong. He got that good build to him. He kind of remind me of Milton Williams when he was at the Senior Bowl a little bit as well, where he can kind of rise his stock a little bit. I think Milton went in the second round, I believe. I think he's kind of that similar kind of guy where he got that athletic ability, but he's also big enough to you can move him around either nose or through tech. So I think that he's one of those guys. Dwayne Carter was another one that stood out to me. He was a really good guy out there. Austin Booker, his name was moving around a lot there as well. He's one of those guys that I don't think a lot of people knew about him going in. So like for him, he kind of flashed. Obviously Brandon Fisk, he was a big name down there. Switched teams in the middle of the practice week. Actually, not even. It was at the end of the practice week, and the same day. I think it was the same day or the day right before. They switched his team, and he balled out in the game as well. So he had a really good game. And then
I think Adisa, we should mention as well. Interview, I think he looked pretty good on the edge, and he was definitely able to, I think, really raise his stock coming in. I think 6th or 7th guy, and now I'm seeing a lot of 4th round stuff on him. I saw a couple update lists this week, and he was even in a top 100. So I think he's definitely a guy. It's really cool interviewing some of those guys because you could stand next to them and see like their build and what they're about physically. And he's a athletic specimen. Like put him on the edge, you got a couple shots of him bending. Like he's going to be a guy that can swoop around that edge and pick up a couple sacks for you. We talked about the guy in Atlanta. I'm trying to think how to pronounce his name. Arnold. Another Penn State.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I forgot how to say his name, but yeah, from Penn State.
That he's been effective for them, and I think Isaac has definitely like a similar ceiling.
I feel like Ray's laughing at me for the way my pronunciation.
Jerome is great with people's names, man. He's the best. He is. He's the best, man.
Oh man.
What? It's funny, like. The thing is, like, you guys watched him practice all week, so you are a little bit like there's an advantage there. The one guy that I noticed during the game was Brandon Fisk. He was just an animal, man.
Yeah.
There was no answer for him. He was just having his way with whoever they kind of lined up on him. So I do like the defensive tackle that he said. What's that?
Michael Hall.
I like Michael Hall a lot. I think he's going to be a fairly high pick. I don't know, 3rd round probably, but I do like him a lot. Maybe 2nd round. The one guy I'm looking for him. I'm looking for my grade I had on him because you said something and I wasn't sure that if it matched what I thought about him.
Paul?
No, it's the other. Nose guard, the nose tackle guy.
You talking about I said it or Sam said it?
Sam.
Oh, maybe Tyler Davis, the Clemson kid?
No, I like Tyler Davis a lot too. I like the Clemson interior defensive line. It's what can I find? Oh, Devondre Sweat.
Oh yeah.
I think Devondre Sweat is going to be a really good nose tackle. But I don't think you should take him before the end of the 2nd round, maybe 3rd round.
Huh.
I don't. I think that we see not to beat up Jordan Davis right now, Jerome, because I don't want to beat up Jordan Davis. But you see a guy that didn't weigh in, and that's always a red flag for me, man.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that has a hard time getting his weight down when they don't want to weigh in, that's a red flag for me. I don't need you to be 380 when the season starts because right away I'm at a disadvantage. You need to lose 40 pounds before I can get you on the field. Jordan Davis killed the Eagles later in the season this year. Not having that depth that the Eagles had last year was part of the reason why they struggled going down the stretch this year.
Right, and I said that going in, that was my biggest fear, Jordan Davis, and the reason why I didn't really want to draft him, at least that high, because of that, because of his weight, and he always had issues with it. As soon as I hear a D tackle have weight issues, my mind literally always goes to Albert Hammond.
Because I have Miami, I do like a mock draft every day, probably at least 10 of them, and I have Miami taking Sweat. But the thing is, I always have him taken at the end of the 2nd round, or if I can trade out and he's still there. I mean, he's ranked between 40 and 50, depending on whose ranking you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like him for my team because I need a 0-1 tech on my team, but not every team needs that guy.
All right, so let's get into our next position. We're going to talk about the linebackers. Now, linebacker,
Why? Just kidding. Well, it's like running back.
Anyway,
it's like it's no problem. I mean, but it's like running back.
Yeah, it is.
Does anybody even really care about linebackers anymore?
I do. I like linebacker play.
Why?
Maybe it's because the Eagles don't have a good linebacker, so I'm always intrigued by good linebackers. But I don't know. I grew up in the German Trotter era, man. So seeing guys like that, seeing guys like Patrick Willis, and I do when there is one, I fall in love with them, man. So right now Fred Warner is going crazy. I love Fred Warner. So it's like I wish he wasn't.
I respect him because again, like I tell people all the time, the biggest difference between football when I was younger and now is when I was a kid, the best players in the league, the most polarizing players in the league were linebackers and running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like secondary positions in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now it's quarterbacks, wide receivers, corners.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a very good class for linebackers. The problem is you have different guys that do different things, and there's really very few off-ball linebackers anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's either a situational type guy, or they're an edge rusher, or they're a guy that maybe plays 2 downs. I mean, it's really a hard position to evaluate because of the way things are so wide open anymore.
Mm-hmm.
How many linebackers do you see that come out of college that are real thumpers anymore?
Yeah.
Not. They ask everybody to cover somebody now. So
Definitely.
it's hard.
I think I saw 2 linebackers I could say they're going to be successful at the pro level this week, and I think one was Peyton Wilson, the other one was Cedric Gray from NC State. When you look at him, he kind of looks like a wideout, like he's got that build. But again, kind of hitting on what Ray said, every linebacker just needs to cover these days, and I don't think he's going to necessarily have a problem doing that. And if a team could find a way to put some weight on that kid, I think he could turn it into a pretty good linebacker. I think we interviewed Cedric Gray, Jerome, and he looked good all week as well too. I think he definitely has some upside heading into April as well.
I mean, I love Jalen Ford from Texas. I think he can do a lot of different things for you in your defense. He can play. I think he can play all 3 downs for you because he's physical enough. He tackles well enough, and he can drop back and do some things in coverage. I mean, there's only on one thing I have Tyrod Hopper from Missouri and Tyrus Knight from UTEP, both listed as middle linebackers, which means to me they probably won't play in the NFL unless they play on special teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on JT Ray?
I love him as a talent, but again, we got to see where he's going to fit in as far as scheme goes. I mean, like, can he cover? They don't ask him to do a lot of covering.
Yeah.
They ask him to shade in the flat, but that's about all they ask any.
Yeah.
Unless you have an outside guy who can really run, them guys all do the same thing. They all play within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
I think he had a solid game. Solid week. I don't think he hurt himself at all. You know?
I think the defenses were what both teams hung their hat on this week. I think the defenses both outplayed the offenses on both sides of the ball, on both teams.
I think that's just going to happen too in like a setting like this. They kind of like, the defense always has an advantage over an offense, just trying to kind of click and play with each other for the first time as well.
Yes. Offense is always such a systematic, rhythm kind of system, where defense can kind of just flow. That's why, I grew up trying to play wide receiver, and then I quickly realized, I love playing DB a lot more. You get the flow a little bit.
When I was younger, I always played defensive line, and because I always played defensive line, when the coaches always talked about me playing offense, I was always on the line, and I wanted to play tight end. I'm like, I don't want to play the offensive line. I hate it. I want to play tight end. And they're like, okay, well, you're a little fat there, dude. Like, play defensive line.
I hear you. But yeah, any last words on the linebackers? Anybody you want to talk about that?
Just that there's some good players here. Mm-hmm. I like Ford from Texas probably the best, and the guys that can do a little bit of everything. The other guys, you have to decide if they're going to be edge guys, if they're going to be off-ball guys. Nothing. It usually is you get the off-ball guys and you try to make them like a middle linebacker now because they can come up and tackle, but they can still drop back 10, 15 yards and cover in the middle of the field a little bit. I mean, and that's where you're seeing the position go right now. Warner from San Francisco is the best. Because he does everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. All right, let's get to our last position. It's gonna be DB, my favorite position. Ray don't like them, but my favorite position. I'll start. A couple of guys
There you go. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. A couple of guys I want to talk about. Obviously Quentin Mitchell. He's the talk of the town down there. The kid from Toledo got the size. Looked the part down there. Definitely looked the part down there. Every DB kind of gets beat. He got beat a couple of times, but there was a time when he got beat and then he just recovered really well and wound up getting an interception in the back of the end zone. So he's a guy that a lot of people are going to be talking about during this draft. I think most people got him at a low-ended first-round pick, second-round pick. I think that's probably just around where you want him to be. Only playing at Toledo, which doesn't have the best talent. So I think him coming to the Senior Bowl really helps him play against some of the best receivers out there. He fared very well. Evan Wilson seemed like a really ball hawk. Usually when I hear that, it kind of draws me away from a player a little bit, just because usually when a player is a ball hawk, that usually means they're baiting, and sometimes they get beat a lot. So usually when they're a ball hawk, I'm like, all right, I gotta see how good they are as being a ball hawk, because that means sometimes they're taking liberties. But he had a huge interception in the game, in the red zone, and then he almost had another one which he dropped. So he was very impressive to me in that game. Another name I want to mention is I don't think a lot of people was talking about this kid enough, or maybe I don't know, but Brown Lee, man, he got the size, he got the length, he was fast, he looked really good out there. And then last but not least, I do want to talk about, actually I want to talk about two other players. Tyke Smith, I wasn't high on him coming into the Senior Bowl. He looked really well out there. He got the American Defensive Player of the Week. Of the game. So that was pretty cool to see him do that. So I got to do a little bit more evaluating with him. I wasn't really high on him. A guy that I was super high, I'm not super high on, but he impressed me very much, was Chris Adams-Drains, who I got to interview. There was times where he was shutting down Ladd, and I know Ladd was the talk of the town when we was down there. He was shutting him down. Like, he was like, when he got into press with Ladd was really not going anywhere. And then earlier today, I actually seen him on the PFF top players of 2023. So that kind of compared to what I thought of him. So that's a couple of guys I want to mention. Sam, you want to go next?
Yeah, I could go next. I actually have a top 10 DB list I just made yesterday, but some of the names you already mentioned, obviously. But so Quinyon Mitchell at 1, Cam Kinchens at 2. Miami. I don't know if you talked about Cam yet or not, but Jerome interviewed him. Just a pro safety. Like, he looks like an NFL talent, and he has really good back end skills. You have to have an ability to vocalize and lead and talk and jab back there as being a safety. I think he fits the mold perfectly. DJ James, cornerback from Auburn, like his game a lot. Think he's going to be definitely in that top 3 round area. Chris Abrams-Drain from Missouri. Cam Hart, Notre Dame. Watching Cam play in that game, dude, his size, if he changed his helmet, I thought Jalen Ramsey was out there for a second. I mean, the way he was able to get the run on the edge and shut down the run, not a lot of cornerbacks could do that. And I feel like the league is lacking a lot of corners who are willing to play the run like that. So I like his size a lot. And, a team like mine, the Giants, like, they need a physical corner like that who's really just good, like, wherever he is. Javon Bullard, another guy I'll mention. Bo Braid from Maryland, I thought, did some really nice things as well. And then the 2 Utah guys, Vaki and Bishop, both safeties. Jerome interviewed Vaki, but I thought both of them have, pretty good, like, NFL tendencies. I was really shocked by watching them play together, 1, and then 2, just kind of realizing that Utah has 2 safeties out there, which is, that's impressive. Hats off to whoever that defensive backs coach is in Utah, obviously getting the.
Yeah, you don't watch Utah, do you?
Who
yeah. No, you don't watch Utah, do you?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I tell this to Ray all the time. Utah be putting on some products in the NFL. Utah, like, if you really think about it.
Rome is a Utah jinx, okay?
I know. But
Jerome if Jerome were predicting their game every week, whatever he predicts, they'd go the other way. It doesn't matter. It's win, lose.
I am that jinx.
He is the worst, man. And he actually likes the program. That's the crazy thing.
I just can't. I can't root for them.
I think they're going to be good. They're not.
But they do have some great products with that team, man. So
I really, again, hate to get back to the I wish your quarterback wouldn't have gotten hurt to see how good they actually could have been this year. You know?
Yeah. They beat up on some good teams, man. USC.
Physical team, man. Probably the most physical team in that conference, really.
Definitely. So, Ray, you got any DBs you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I like Tyke Jackson from Oregon. I thought he had a good – I love Cam Hart, but I'm a Notre Dame guy, so I'm going to love him. I love the fact that he plays all aspects of the game. He's a good tackler. He's not great in coverage, but he's solid in coverage. He doesn't have great speed, but he has good hips. He turns both ways pretty well. I could see him settling in at free safety and being a real plus player there, kind of like Love does now. He went to Notre Dame, was a good corner in Notre Dame, kind of like settled into safety, and now he's been pretty good player now.
Yeah.
He plays for Seattle. I think he's for the Seahawks now.
Yeah, Pete does Jalen Hurts twice in that damn game.
Yeah.
Well, that's because, okay. I mean, I like Jarvis Brownlee from Louisville.
I just like his size.
He looks smart. And well, that's man. We all check boxes in this sport, man. Size, check. Range, check. Length, check. Speed, that's what I love the combine for. That it'll tell me flat out this guy runs this fast.
I agree.
Flat out, this guy's good at the 3-cone. Because really, when it comes to linemen, I worry way more about the 3-cone drill than any kind of speed evaluation with them guys. But length is always important, no matter what position you play.
Definitely. All right, are we going to talk about special teams, guys? Any special teamers?
No.
I think Bill Reichard you got to bring up. Alabama.
Yeah.
Being scorer of all time, I think. He was testing it in the game from like 60, Jerome, right? Didn't he? I think he attempted a 58. Am I wrong? But that's impressive, and he definitely had the distance in some of those kicks. So, shout out to him. Just kind of showing off this week a bit.
I kind of thought that Sam covered special teams earlier when he said Luke McCaffrey would be a good player.
Yeah.
We're not talking about evaluating kickers, right, dude?
I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
Okay.
I'll say the kickers kind of struggled in the game. They did. So
yeah,
they're kickers.
Both of them missed kicks, so I think the punters was fine.
I mean, I know that we make light of kickers, but you know what? The only time you really worry about your kicker is when you don't have a good one.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh my God, this guy's going to try again. Come on, man, we can do that. But I mean, it's again, man. The Eagles have a good kicker, so the Eagles are fine. There's only really a handful of those guys in the league, man, and then everybody else is as bad as interchangeable as this water bottle right here. To be honest with you,
switching kickers more than their underwears.
Man, like I tell everybody all the time, I would always have a kicker on my practice squad. Always. I don't care where he comes from. I'll get 5 soccer players to go out there and give them a tryout one week, and I use that. I don't care, man.
Kicker tryout every week.
Every week. Let's see if you kick the ball 60 yards. Yeah, but I don't mean to make light of the position. It's just that I don't worry about kicking until it's a problem, Yeah. And then it's too late sometimes. I will say that.
100%. Well, that's gonna do it for us today, man. With the Senior Bowl, that's gonna close it out. This was a great week, man. Ray, we gotta get you out there next year. It's gonna be my goal to get you at the Senior Bowl.
Jim, do you live in Jersey still?
Yeah, he does.
Really? Where at in Jersey?
I go to Penn State right now too, so I flew out of Harrisburg.
Okay, so where do you live in Jersey though?
Morristown still, so.
Okay. Well, you're close to me. I live in Maple Shade.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, you're still 10 minutes.
I'm close, man.
Yeah, I know. We would love your expertise down there. Definitely would help.
Let me ask you this, man. What do you think about? I mean, you're a Penn State fan. I got that. My dad was a huge Penn State fan. Do you ever think that they should make a move with the coach? Because me and Ron go on about this back and forth all the time, man. Like,
I knew you were gonna say
he was a great recruiter, man, but he doesn't get it done on game day all the time, man. He just doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's like the hardest topic to talk about here. And
Right.
when you're in a place with such high expectations and you're going 10-2 and you know, everyone's disappointed. You know what I mean? It's like weird and almost such high expectations. And it's a running joke around here. Everyone says 10-2. Oh, can't wait for next year, 10-2. Can't wait for 2027, 10-2. Like we're gonna lose those same 2 games. I mean, it's gonna get to a point where you can't swallow it anymore. There's too much money. There's too much invested into this rich program to lose as many games as they had. I mean, Franklin's record against the top 10 is, I don't even want to look it up right now, but it's not good.
Terrible. I can tell you right now, terrible.
It's really bad.
Terrible.
And
Like I don't understand. Like to me, I mean, Jerome will tell you this. I respect all college football programs. I don't like them all.
yeah,
I respect them all.
yeah. And it's hard to
And,
back his recruiting, and like when you talk to like Michigan, Ohio State fans sometimes, they're like, who else are you gonna get? You know what I mean? Like who can beat us? And I'm like, you're right. I mean, like we're getting the best recruits. Like, is it more of a Franklin not hiring the right assistants thing? He can't really coach a team. I mean, I don't know. It's just
did you watch the game against Michigan this year, man? I'm assuming you did, right?
yeah. I was in the press box.
I mean, like pretty much. Don't get me wrong. It was a great game.
When they ran on third,
it was a great game.
there was a couple people that were really important in the university that I was sitting by, and I could tell you they were not happy campers.
I mean, I do like Drum. Me and Drum are texting back and forth, because it was a great game.
Yeah, it was. It was.
I can't wait to see what James Franklin does to blow it. I can't wait for it.
It was like the next
and then that's when he went for that fourth down inside his own 30. I'm like, there you go. He's like
crazy. But Ray, we definitely got to get you down at the Senior Bowl next year, and I got a little incentive for you.
Okay.
So if you go down to the Senior Bowl, I got this nice little thing right here, right? I'm gonna ship this out to you. So
what is it?
I'm gonna show you. So I'm gonna ship this out to you. This is gonna be your little incentive. It's gonna be in your house, and you're gonna look at it each time, so you know, hey, let's get this. So I don't know if you know, but this year was the 75th anniversary of the Senior Bowl, and it was giving out little items, and I figured you might like this one. A little Dan Marino.
Oh, that's phenomenal, dude. Dan's brother.
I'm gonna send it to you. I got that for you, man.
Is it with Miami?
It's not. It has a Pittsburgh helmet, but
I like that, man. Yo, dude, I have a Dan Marino Pitt jersey. I have a Larry Sanders Oklahoma State jersey, dude.
Really?
That's cool.
So this is literally my only second time opening this.
I have for you. I have the used to belong to my dad, a John Capoletti jersey.
Really?
Wow, he was actually in my fraternity that I belong in.
Really?
Yeah.
My dad loved Penn State. I mean, honestly, and I think I've always been a Notre Dame fan, but I kind of rooted for Penn State, Joe Paterno, Earl Parsesian, who was a coach at Notre Dame, and Bear Bryant, who was a coach at Alabama. And to me, they were my coaches. I respect all of those coaches when I was a kid. I didn't say anybody from Michigan or Ohio State, right?
And that would do our podcast for today. Please like and subscribe. That's gonna do it for us today, guys. Appreciate Sam for being on with us, man. We gotta get you on a couple of times.
We gotta do some draft stuff together, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Mock draft sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's been great, guys. Thanks so much. Would love to be back on. I'm excited for all this draft stuff. I mean, it's really heating up. Got about a month and a half-ish.
Yeah, like that.
Really starts going, but yeah.
What are you taking at Penn State, Sam? If you don't mind me asking, what do you take there?
As journalism major with a sports studies minor.
Okay.
So, I work in their sports department. I cover a lot of baseball, basketball.
How many years have you been at Penn State now?
I'm a senior. I'm graduating in May.
Okay. And you still have something to do there, or you're going to be looking for work after that?
Currently looking for work a little bit, but I work for the radio station here, and I work for like a couple of TV shows that they have here through the university that covers their athletics program.
There are different places that cover Penn State football, correct?
Yeah, no, the university hires a lot of us to
Okay.
do it, so it's nice just being able to have that experience behind me as well. I do a lot of basketball, baseball, wrestling's huge here. I mean, right? Like Penn State's pretty elite at everything, so everything needs coverage, which is like really fun. Where you're going to lacrosse games, you're getting the whole experience, and honestly, it's sad. We can't bring that winning tradition back to football.
You know what? Honestly, I tell Jerome this all the time. When Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all good, it's like when Florida State, Miami's good, Notre Dame, USC. It's just good for football, man. It really is. I mean, they're to me, they're the best programs in college football. But again, I know I'm old. It is what it is.
Yep.
When those teams are good, and I just want, and I'm glad that Jerome won a national title this year because I was, I understand he's a Michigan fan and I respect that. I would love to see. It's never going to be James Franklin, though. I'm going to tell you right now. But I would love to see Penn State win another national title.
Yeah,
If there's any team besides Notre Dame,
yeah,
it would be Penn State.
Yeah, it's like almost how like the Bears.
Like, screw Penn State.
See that right there?
I see.
That's like I said. I ain't saying nothing else.
I got it.
1004. But no, it was definitely great to have that experience to watch it. I know we had one in the 90s. I barely remember that one, so it was great to have a more recent one for sure. But yeah, before we get off, I wanted to say, and I said this in our last podcast that we had with Sam on. Sam been with us since he was 16. He is now 23. I think 22.
22, yep.
He's been with us for 6 years. He's been doing some great stuff, so please make sure you like and subscribe to everything he's doing on Instagram, Twitter. Make sure you go follow him because he got some great stuff. He did an amazing job down here at the Senior Bowl with all the interviews, to the point where Spencer Rattler even said that, man, that was some good questions. So, he's been doing some great stuff. I want to always shout out this kid because he's been with us since day one. Never worried, always worked hard, and just to see the growth that he's been in since day one to now, man, I really do appreciate you, Sam. So please make sure you look at Sam's work. He does a lot of great stuff for Inside the Hashes. He got his own personal stuff, and he's working for Penn State. So he's a busy man. He does a lot of great stuff. So please like and support him. I'm always going to be by your side no matter what you do. Man, I got your back because you've been doing some great stuff, and I love the fact that you've been working so hard. So keep it up, my boy. Appreciate you getting on with us. Ray, you're my guy. You're the man, the myth, the legend. You already know that, man. I'm gonna send this to your house.
All right, man.
Once I got it, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna get this to Ray. Like, I don't need it, so I'm gonna give it to Ray.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Gotta get you down to the Senior Bowl. That's it. But that's gonna do it for us today, guys. Appreciate y'all checking us out at the RPO College Football Podcast. We're gonna have a lot of draft coverage, so make sure you like and subscribe. Right down there where Sam is, it's right there, right behind my head as well. We got the QR code, so you can definitely scan all that, and you can find all our social media on there. All our interviews from the Senior Bowl will be on our YouTube channel, so go make sure you check that out. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, so when the interviews are coming out. You got maybe another 12 more to put out. We got tons of interviews, so make sure you check all that out. Support us. We got 3 podcasts on this platform as well. So make sure you check out all 3 of them as well on our YouTube channel. Thank y'all so much. Once again, this is Jerome Jones. We got Ray, the man, the myth, the legend right there. And we got Mr. Sam Kirk right there at the bottom. Thank you guys so much once again. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.